There's a couple open ones still.
Oh, I thought everyone was on the same thing. I'm not partaking. I'm just watching.
Okay, cool. That will work as well.
I think we'll
So,
watch for the first one.
okay. It's pretty easy. It's pretty straightforward. As I've explained a little bit earlier, we're going to read off a scenario, and then you will be given basically a prompt and action to go for. And you will have 5 minutes to conduct a plan and draft that on the board as you would in any normal Arma game that you are leading. Uh, After that time has elapsed, it will be pencils down, and you will then have to brief your unit, brief all of the players, as though you are briefing an Arma element in game. This is practicing that leadership skill. From that point, all the other players, all the other people in the call will be critiquing that plan. This is a safe space. Constructive criticism doesn't mean you're stupid if you're being critiqued. You are going to be critiquing in the next one. We're all here to learn. As I was bullied for saying earlier, this is a safe space. And from that point, we're just going to rotate per player. We'll have whoever's active, whose plan is being critiqued, frisbee it. That way we're not all, shy and fighting over who's going to go next. But to start us off, we're going to read the foreword from the book, just so everybody kind of understands how the game is played, as well as gets a little bit of context on the historical factors here. Should only take about 10 minutes or so as we popcorn read. Anybody got any questions? Cool. For those who would like to follow along with the book, especially those who would like to help us read out, the PDF is in the channel chat. Free and accessible. If you want a physical copy, I think they're $250 because they're out of print, but, be my guest. But yeah, so we'll follow along with that. Chesh, do you have anything?
Forward or preface?
I was going to go with Are You the Next Napoleon?
Ooh,
Because
yes.
that pretty quickly just gets down into the group skills.
Yeah, that one's good.
Yeah, because the rest of it is like, it's really useful. I find it fascinating, but it's kind of long for the time we've got.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we'll just stick with the preface. We could go with observations and decision making as well, but I think we should just get into the game afterwards. That sound good?
Sounds good.
Cool. All right. Well, I will start off the reading. If you don't wish to read when I popcorn it, just say pass it on to somebody else. We'll quickly find out who's comfortable reading. Okay. Are you the next Napoleon? A general should say to him, army were to make its appearance in front, on my right, or on my left. What should I do? Napoleon. In war, there is no substitute for experience, no substitute for the intuitive skill that comes from repeated practice. Tactical decision games are a practice field for the tactical leader. This article explains why and how. Think of the great captains of military history: Alexander, Hannibal, Frederick the Great, Napoleon, Genghis Khan. We hold these men in high regard because we recognize them as military geniuses, as true masters of the art of war, whose mastery of the art form clearly eclipses the mass of the merely competent. Clearly, the art of war places high demand on the intellect of military commanders, and any professional continually strives towards mastery. The mystery of mastery. But how are such masters made? Are they born geniuses or the product of training? Napoleon's quote makes it clear that he believed intellectual preparation was an essential factor. While natural abilities are certainly a contributing factor, psychological studies show that Napoleon was right. The pioneering work to uncover the mystery of mastery was done by cognitive psychologists in the 1960s and 1970s, using chess players as the subject. According to Robert J. Trotter in The Mystery of Mastery, Psychology Today, July 1986, it had been assumed that the ability to think many moves ahead and consider the implications of each move was what separated the expert from the novice chess player. But in the mid-1960s, psychologist Adrienne de Groot showed that neither experts nor novices think more than a few moves ahead. Instead, findings suggest that a chess master is someone who, after years of experience, can recognize as many as 100,000 meaningful board positions and make the best response to each. So instead of being a deep thinker who can see many moves ahead, the master chess player is now seen as someone with a superior ability to take in large chunks of information, recognize problem situations, and respond appropriately. This explains how a chess master is able to defeat dozens of weaker players in simultaneous play. For the most part, the master relies on pattern recognition abilities, or so-called chess intuition, to generate potentially good moves. According to Robert Glazer and Micheline Shi of the University of Pittsburgh's Learning, Research, and Development Center in the Psychology Today article, The most important principle of skill performance is that skill depends on the knowledge base. In general, the more practice one has had in some domain, the better the performance, and from all indications, this increase in expertise is due to improvements in the knowledge base. The same principle applies to tactics, which have obvious similarities to chess and to tacticians, and that is where tactical decision games come in. Popcorn to Lambda. No worries. It is Are You the Next Napoleon? Second column on the right there. Yep. The last word was decision games come in. Paragraph, the same principle applies to tactics, which have obvious similarities to chess. Cool.
There we go. Tactical decision games, TDGs, are a simple, fun, and effective way to improve your decision-making ability and tactical acumen. To improve your mastery of the art of war, like most skills, you can improve tactical decision-making ability through practice. The idea behind TDGs is to put you in the role of a commander facing a tactical problem, give you a limited amount of time and information, and then require you to develop a plan to solve the problem. By repeatedly working through the problems like these, you will learn not only to make better decisions, but you will also learn to make decisions better. That is, more quickly and efficiently. You will learn to look at a situation and instantly take in its essential features to cut right to the heart of the problem. So, there's a quote here. The art of war places high demands on the intellect of military commanders. Any professionals continually strives towards mastery. All right, so this is where we all learn that I don't speak French.
Say in the second line down, they say how to pronounce
Yeah,
it.
but that's not right. It is coup, but Devi is not. Look, I'm pretty sure that's wrong.
Coup
But
Doyle.
I'll trust it. No, I know the EIL gets ignored. Oh, aren't there any French Canadians here? Anyways, I'm just going to go with it. In short, so the next section is coup d'oeil. In short, you will develop the skill Frederick the Great called coup d'oeil. Coup d'oeil means literally strike of the eye, and Frederick describes it as, quote, the talent which great men have of conceiving in a moment all the advantage of terrain and the use they can make of it in their army. The clever general perceives the advantages of the terrain instantly. He gains advantage from the slightest hillock, from a teeny marsh. He advances or withdraws a wing to gain superiority. He strengthens either his right or his left, moves ahead or to the rear, and profits from the nearest bagatelles. Clarify, anyone know? I've never heard that as a terrain feature.
No idea.
Okay, well, it's something.
We
You're going
can
to
just keep
benefit
going.
from it, hopefully. Whoever has the best coup d'oeil, we perceive at first glance the weakest spot of the enemy and attack him there. The judgment that is exercised about the capacity of the enemy at the commencement of a battle is also called coup d'oeil. The latter is the result only of experience. Just as the chess master immediately sees patterns and opportunities on a chessboard where others see a disarray of pieces, the tactician gifted with the coup d'oeil sees patterns and opportunities on the battlefield, where others see chaos and confusion. While no two battlefield situations will ever be identical, the master tactician can recognize patterns on the tactical quote-unquote chessboard. Popcorn. Chesh, you can go. I see your name.
Damn it. And just to go back. Okay. You stopped at as coup d'oeil improves, right?
You're going to go into improved tactics, the next section header.
Okie dokie. Improve tactics. Not only will you improve your ability to make decisions quickly and effectively through TDGs, but your appreciation and mastery of tactics will also improve. An understanding of tactical theory is an important foundation for tactical mastery, but theory will only take you so far. Frankly, the basic concepts behind good tactics are not all that complex, nor are they particularly hard for the average Marine to comprehend. The difficult thing is in applying those concepts to specific tactical situations, and that is where true genius and the development of coup d'oeil come in. As Kudoil improves, you begin to make sense of situations that made no sense before. You begin to see patterns, and in those patterns, you spot opportunities and options that previously did not exist for you. As you become more experienced, you become more comfortable with a variety of different situations. You have the opportunity to experiment with different tactical ideas without having to worry about paying the price in terms of casualties. Your tactics become more ambitious. Where before an enemy movement appeared threatening, now you see it as an opportunity to strike him in the flank. Your tactics become more advanced. Where before your tactics involved simply trying to attack your enemy, now you think of ways to get him to expose himself first. By more advanced, I do not necessarily mean more complex. A plan does not have to be more complex to exhibit a greater understanding of tactical principles, greater flexibility, a greater appreciation for the use of terrain, a greater sense of timing, or a greater range of options. Often, the simplest plans are the most inspired precisely because they are the most economical. A valuable fringe benefit of TDGs is that you become more familiar with weapons capabilities and employment techniques, the use of control measure and map symbols, and other technical details. I'm going to read the next section before popping over. Tactical Decision Games Group. I say all of this out of personal experience. I was part of a group of Marines and civilians that met at the Marine Corps University late every Thursday afternoon for a couple of years to play and develop TDGs. The makeup of the group ranged from corporals to brigadier generals, from clerks and drivers to the editor of the Marine Corps Gazette, a Marine Corps University librarian, and command and staff college instructors in operational art. Some members came and went, but a devoted cadre remained. Those of us who participated regularly unanimously agreed that our tactical skills had improved significantly as the result of the TDGs. Not only could we reach tactical decisions, that is, formulate plans, more quickly and efficiently, but we found we could communicate those plans more clearly and concisely to the group, and in general, the standard of our tactical plans was higher. Each of the members benefited from seeing how others handled the same tactical problems, and from being critiqued by the others. And in the atmosphere of professional fraternity, the group consciously refused to sugarcoat the critiques. The TDGs generated serious discussions on tactical concepts and created a heightened interest in tactics in general. While we may not have developed any new Napoleons, all who participated felt much more confident of their abilities as a result of the experience. Let's pop that over to... Hey, Bacon, you want to read?
I'm still working, not involved. I'm gonna have to pass.
Okie dokie. Brick?
Damn. How the games work. Playing a tactical decision game is very simple. Putting yourself in the role of the commander, you read or have described to you the situation. Within an established time limit, you decide what plan to adopt and communicate that plan in the form of orders you would use to issue to your unit if the situation were quote-unquote for real. You provide an overlay of your plan. Then, and this is an important part of the process, you explain the plan as a means of analyzing why you did what you did. What options did you have? What factors or considerations were foremost in your mind? On what tactical principles or concepts was your plan based? What assumptions did you make about the situation? Drawing an overlay of your plan is an important part of the process. It is much easier to be vague in words, hiding the fact that you haven't thought the problem all the way through, than in a diagram. Diagrams are precise. In order to be able to draw a diagram of your concept, you must have thought the concept through clearly. The overlay is a good way to ensure this. But by the same token, it is equally important to develop a verbal order as well, whether written or oral, because words are the primary means by which we communicate our plans, and we should practice using the same tools we will use in combat. One advantage of TTGs is that, just as in real life, there is no absolute right or wrong answers, no schoolbook solutions. Tactics are concerned only with what works. There are countless ways to solve any tactical problem. However, some plans reflect a truer understanding of tactical principles than others. The whole objective of TDGs is to arrive at a truer understanding that eventually results in mastery. Normally, the scenario is fairly simple, and the information about it is far from complete, requiring us to make certain assumptions as the basis for decision, just as in combat. Unlike board games or their computer versions, TDGs have very few rules or mechanics to learn. In fact, there are really only two quote-unquote rules. They are 1. The imposed time limit, and 2. The requirement to give the solution in the form of combat order. Both are worth discussing briefly. There are 2 reasons for the time limit. First, it introduces a certain amount of friction, in the form of stress, to the decision process. The idea is to give the player less time and information than he thinks he needs to formulate a good plan, and yet require him to come up with one anyway. This is the reality of war, and precisely one of the abilities that makes for a successful commander. Second, the game imposes a time limit because combat is time competitive. Speed relative to your opponent is essential. Not only must you make good decisions, but you must make them quickly. If not, your decisions, no matter how sound, will be irrelevant because you will be too late. For a more detailed discussion of the effects of time on decision making, see the article Observations on Decision Making in Battle that follows. Popcorn, Antares.
And
How
we are
the
also
games
going to
work.
skip the gameplay section since we've explained it, just as a heads up.
Okay, so we can get through the how games work section.
Yep, we will skip straight to friction.
Okay.
Page 5.
Clausewitz. Oh my. Friction. Clausewitz wrote that friction is the only concept that more or less corresponds to the factors that distinguish real war from war on paper. TGGs are quite literally war on paper, and so are not subject to the countless difficulties and distinguish real war. In reality, units get lost, orders get misunderstood, subordinates make bad decisions, important intelligence reports get misplaced, communications break down, and nothing happens as fast as it should. A plan that seems simple in conception can be extremely difficult in execution. A plan brilliant in conception that's impossible to execute given the circumstances is not brilliant at all, but foolish. Commanders' responsibilities do not stop when they issue their orders, of course, but they must also supervise the execution of their plans. But TGGs stop short of this execution. You should keep this in mind when playing TGGs so as not to get the impression that this whole business is much easier than it really is. In the group version, the moderator should serve as the reality check by questioning the feasibility of the various plans. Do you really expect to make a 12-mile forced march through the woods at night? Well, that's an easy one. The answer is you absolutely fucking can. You can hate it, but you can do it. All right, who's up next?
I can take it if no one else wants it.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Solve the problem. Don't critique it. In order to keep the scenarios from getting too complicated and unwieldy, the situation descriptions are intentionally short and simple. This also adds an element of the uncertainty that is present in any tactical situation. In any situation, a commander could identify countless pieces of information he wishes he had, as well as countless inconsistencies in the information he does have. Since this is so, he must make certain assumptions. Dealing with the uncertainty is one of the fundamental challenges of tactical decision-making. It is easy and tempting to pick apart a simplified scenario and call it unrealistic, inconsistent, or impossible. But that is simply avoiding the challenge. The fact is, war is full of unrealistic, inconsistent, and apparently impossible happenings. It is important to take the scenarios on their own terms. One captain's response to scenario number 1, Ambush at Dusk, MCG November 91, was not to offer a solution, but to question how the unit in question got into the situation it did. Probably a reasonable criticism, but in fact, the scenario was based on an actual incident in Vietnam, and a more detailed account could have explained more fully why the unit was where it was. More important, whether or not the unit should have ever gotten into that predicament in the first place. It did, and Marines had to find a way out. The person whose first response to a problem scenario is to complain, "This would never happen," is probably the same person who has trouble dealing with unexpected situations. As with any problem, the best advice is to solve it first, and then figure out how it could have happened. In closing, experience is the great teacher. Unfortunately, ours is a field in which experience can cost dearly. As Field Marshal Sir William Slim wrote of taking over British forces in Burma in 1942, experience taught a good deal, but with the Japanese as instructors, it was an expensive way of learning. We are professionally obligated to do whatever we can to gain whatever experience we can without paying full price. That is precisely why we study past campaigns, and precisely why we should play tactical decision games. Now, it's time for your first mission. Good luck. All right,
Okie dokie.
This
let's
is
scroll
important.
down.
If you want me to be recording, I can record all of this, and I haven't so far. Is it okay if I dump the first part here where we just read the rules?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. That work for you, Chesh?
Hey, I'm happy.
Cool.
All right, so we're going to jump down to scenario 1 at this point, Ambush at Dusk. We'll continue the popcorn method, reading through these scenarios. I've got a timer up ready to go, so whenever we finish that, I will announce when the timer is starting, and we'll get to the planning stuff.
I can read off the situation, just because I know sometimes it's distracting to read it and then be expected to answer. So, yeah, page 10 for those who are scrolling down. Are you ready? Cool. Ambush at dusk. Situation. You are the squad leader of 1st Squad, 1st Platoon, Company C, 1st Battalion, 9th Marines. You are fighting in a tropical area against guerrilla forces, armed with small arms, light machine guns, and sometimes mortars and rocket-propelled grenades. Recently, Company C has been conducting patrols in a populated region to counter increased insurgent activity. Today, your platoon with a machine gun squad attached is running a security patrol along a designated route. You are to attack and destroy any enemy forces you locate. Dusk is approaching within the hour. Your squad is the point of the platoon patrol column, some 200 yards forward of the platoon's main body, advancing north through a rice paddy, paralleling a 2-foot-high dike to your right. You have learned from experience not to walk on the dikes or trails because they are frequently booby-trapped. Although uncomfortable, the rice paddies are generally the safest places to move. To your west is a village. East of the dike is another rice paddy and another small village. As your squad crosses a trail at the northern edge of the paddy, one of your Marines trips a booby trap, suffering a severe leg wound. Suddenly, the enemy opens fire with automatic weapons from the village to the west, and the platoon commander is hit. The steady volume of fire from the village has 2nd and 3rd squads pinned down in the rice paddy. After tending to the lieutenant, the corpsman courageously makes his way forward under fire to your position, followed shortly by one machine gun team. The corpsman tells you the lieutenant is in a bad way. You wish you had a radio, but the platoon's radioman is pinned down near the lieutenant. The enemy fire against your position is sporadic. The 2 squads in the paddy are returning fire but appear unable to move. You estimate that the sun will disappear within a half hour. You have no communications with your platoon sergeant. What do you do? In a time limit of 5 minutes, draft the frag order you would issue to your team leaders and describe any additional actions you would take. Include an overlay sketch and provide a brief explanation of the rationale behind your action. Okay, we will begin in one moment. Does anybody have any questions for the moderators about the scenario?
Seems self-explanatory.
Sounds good.
Actually, I do have a question. Could you elaborate on part of the terrain here? It's not noted in the... what would you call it? Reference table in the bottom right.
Are those elevation lines on the top?
Yeah.
Those are hills.
Those
Gotcha.
Are hills, okay.
Yeah, I don't look at maps from Vietnam often. And
No
then
worries.
SCM
Yeah.
is something I imagine you'd be expected to recognize.
Yeah, I actually have no idea what it is. I assume it's some sort of objective marker.
Okay.
It won't be relevant for the situation. Let's put it that way.
Gotcha.
Any other questions?
We all
Cool.
ready? All right, starting the timer now.
I'm gonna activate the whiteboard. Is there a button? What's the answer to number 10?
So if you go to Discord, you have the whiteboard open, right? You said how do you activate it?
Yeah, I'm just looking at it and it's like idled out with like Discord jam space whiteboard in the center.
There should be like a join button usually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm joined in the activity.
Okay, go find a viewboard. In the top left, there should be like a little, I guess they're hamburger menus. Do you see that?
I don't. That's really weird.
Take a screenshot.
Pairs,
post it
I'm
in it.
getting the same thing.
Yeah, I'm in the
Like
same
just
too
a
many
spot.
purple
people
screen.
Yep.
Here, let me exit out and see if you guys can get in. Okay. Does it open up now?
No dice, unfortunately.
Take a screenshot in what you're seeing right now and post it in the chat.
Yeah, I got you. It's just kind of an idle screen.
Oh, that's
Uh,
like the buffer screen.
yeah.
Here, let me try leaving the channel and coming back in. Shit, no dice.
Okay, if you're able to make your plan up in a separate like Word document that you can write on, we can just live stream that and look at it that way.
Yeah, or
if
use
you
like
want to
Paint or something.
post the image in chat, I guess, Chesh, that you
Yep,
have.
I'll do that. Call.
Yeah, here, let me.
Image available in chat.
Oh, you are the best, Josh.
And if you just want to set a 5-minute timer, you can come in after we've done a few other reviews.
Oh shit, yeah, we're going.
Okay, platoon command hit. There's a booby trap down over there.
We have 2 minutes left. $15 seconds.
I see you peeking, Brick.
Just looking.
Eyes on your own work. Come on. No cheating.
Okay, time is up. Pens down for those who started at the same time we started the timer.
For those of who were delayed, just keep going until your own timer pops off. For those who were able to do the original 5 minutes, who would like to go first?
If we want, I can go first to give an example of what we're looking for. But
Yeah, let's do that.
otherwise, somebody has. Okay, cool. So we have a time limit for briefing down, and it's typically 5 minutes, 5 additional minutes, or a third of the time, depending on which one's greater. So for this one, my orders are going to be as if I'm delivering them to subordinate units. So, for example, Alpha 1, Alpha 2, we're going to be moving immediately to the hilltop to our direct west and establishing on that ridge line. In the meantime, MMG, you're going to continue following us until we establish on that hilltop. We'll try and give you cover, and then you are going to provide a support by fire position from there to relieve the platoon from the fire coming from the village. Corpsman, you're clear to tag along with us or return to the platoon at your discretion. From there, once Alpha 1 and Alpha 2 have established on the hilltop, they're either going to stay online with MMG, providing fire into the village, or maneuver down into the low ground no further than phase line 5 in order to prevent any friendly fire incidents from occurring, but while still providing good support for the MMG team up top. From there, we are going to lay down as much suppressive fire as possible in order to relieve the pressure from the platoon. And that would be my orders.
Cool. And then we will move into the critique phase, and we can just take a couple quick questions on that. We don't have to go for the whole 5 minutes.
Yeah, I
For
have
example,
a quick question
yeah.
about the scenario right off the bat. I might be confused with the size of element we're dealing with here. We're a platoon-sized element, right?
So in this one, we are a squad in a platoon-sized element of the 3 squads. So we have
Okay,
a
that's
squad with an
what I
MMG
thought.
team attached.
Okay, great. Thank you.
No problem.
For your plan check, did you send any runner or establish contact with the main element?
I did not. I did not at all.
Okay. I think in the future that would be a good one as well, especially because if you were to plan an assault, you'd be running into other fire.
Yeah, possibly. I think the thing that I was worried about though is that runner element returning back into the fray, and if there's a percent chance of it's a good redundancy. And I definitely agree with that. I think the immediate action is necessity, and that's sort of why I told the medic to also not, or to go at their discretion, because if they see that there's a lot of fire going out, then they'll stick with us, and if not, then they'll return, essentially.
Yeah, I think a good alternate is once you take the hilltop, sending a runner, because then you can judge if the situation's lightened and if they'll be able to get there, and you'll be able to conduct those maneuvers at that point.
For sure, and I should have probably included that in my plan.
No, fair enough. Anybody else have any other questions or critique?
Yeah, Phaseline Cinco's, I mean, obviously not advancing into your own fire is good, but I mean, it's in the open more or less, so I don't know how excited I'd be to tell. I mean, I guess it is a good. Never mind. Yep, I thought about it out loud. You're good.
That's fine. That's what this is all about.
Still want to know what CM is.
Yeah, I'm curious too.
I tried looking it up.
That's a cemetery.
Oh, maybe.
Oh,
Actually.
Oh, that would be.
That's a good boundary for Phaseline Cinco then. If I had known that, I would have been like, hey, don't advance past the cemetery.
yeah, or it might be an omen.
Yeah. For some self-critique, I definitely should have included a little bit more intent for the units that I'm maneuvering. So I know that I gave A1 and A2 and the MMG team that's now attached to us the intent of we're lifting fire or we're trying to relieve pressure once we're on the hilltop. But I forgot to or neglected to include intent for why we're not crossing Phaseline Cinco or why we'd even want to maneuver into the low ground. And I think that's something that I could have worked on.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's one I struggle with too. I think adding that intent is absolutely crucial, but it's hard to do when you're so oriented on get there, you know?
Yeah, because like one of the big problems that could appear here is because A1 and A2 don't have a reason why they should move down in the low ground, they would probably never do that in that case, and they'd stay on the hilltop. Or if they were to move into the low ground, they wouldn't have a solid understanding of why I maneuvered them into the low ground, etc., etc.
Makes sense. Cool. In the interest of time, let's move on to another person. Who had to go early that drafted a plan up and is finished?
I've got one in the chat here, and yeah,
Oh,
I'll have
hell
that
yeah.
gotten like 15. So
Perfect.
it's a little bit messy. I'll kind of go through the order of operations here. But since we know that the booby traps and trails and things are all intermingled, I kind of want to get out of the patties as quickly as possible. So I would have our maneuver element up top, set up support by fire, and just kind of move through points, trying to get as much machine gun fire on the enemy and suppress the hell out of them, while I bring 2 and 3 teams in, just bound them up into the contact there. Obviously, we shift fire as we keep crossing those sorts of phase lines, but it's a little messy. It's a little clunky.
So, how would you brief this if you're a leader in Arma 3? Because that's kind of how we're running through the plans.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I would have one team immediately start laying down the hate to keep some heads down. I would have my 2 team also lay down some scanning as well. 3 teams going to immediately bound forward 100 meters. Once they're set, I'm going to send 2 team after them, just continuing fire as we just push into contact. Just trying to get that bounding overwatch as we go into there. Meanwhile, I'm going to be coordinating fire with 1, trying to push them up onto that hilltop, get that support by fire element with the machine gun shifted over until they're situated in there. And then the majority of the squad is going to be shifting down through those wood lines to cut off anyone from the rear. Then we push through town.
Yeah, in the future, address it to me like I am your unit that you're telling to move, but that works perfect for like intent and how you're breaking out orders. We can set 5 minutes and then we can do a bit of critique. All right. So to start off, I think from how this is laid out, you don't have direct control over 2 and 3. Did you send any sort of communication to get them moving?
Gosh, we wouldn't have radios, would we?
Hmm.
Yeah.
It is a little bit confusing.
So we don't have radio communications then. That's the situation we got.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would have to send some sort of runner then to coordinate that. And we'd have to use some form of signaling, whether that's, I mean, it's nearly dusk, so I'd guess flares would be probably most useful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually a good point of using flares. Like, I imagine this unit has an SOP for signaling at like low light conditions. So that's something to incorporate.
Yeah, that's one of the difficult areas of abstraction is like a lot of these factors, it feels like you would just intuitively know in the moment too.
Mm. I really like this plan just because it follows something similar to what I did. So, I'm proud. I think
I
in
have a
hindsight.
critique.
Oh,
Sorry.
go ahead.
My main critique is if I'm reading the scenario right, the only element that's taking fire so far is second squad, right?
Second
So
and third.
first squad, the second and third. So the enemy doesn't know where you are as first squad. So like
Mhm.
my only tiny little critique, as you said, start laying down the hate immediately. I think you should take advantage of the fact the enemy hasn't detected you yet and move up to that high ground before you begin engaging.
That is a good point for maneuver, but I guess my counterpoint to that thought would also be, though, that you have machine gun teams available on those that haven't been spotted, so they can immediately set up crossfire.
I would also like to throw in that this entire engagement started with one of the guys in first squad hitting a trap and then second and third squad getting hit by fire.
It also says the enemy fire against your position is sporadic. So they do kind of know you're there.
Okay, never mind then. I misread.
Yeah, no worries.
All
There's a lot
good.
to
They're
take
at
in.
least they're at least aware of two different teams.
Yeah.
But they're generally going to, I think, be aware of this because if you look at the distancing too, we're pretty close up. We're only like 300, 400 meters away from all these guys. So
I
this
also
is
think.
a bit of
Oh.
a close fight.
Yeah, I also think there's some validity in even if you weren't exposed or they didn't know about your position in laying down some fire, because at that point you are introducing another angle for the enemy to have to deal with at that point, which lessens whatever ongoing pressure to teams 2 and 3 on the ongoing pressure that they have essentially. So I think it's still maybe less valid, but still valid to lay down some fire. I had a note that I was going to put down that I forgot. Give me a second. Oh, yeah. Looking back at my own plan, I realized that maneuvering into the low ground should probably be phased once 2 and 3 have pushed into the village, I'm noting. And that's just because I noted that if you're committed in the forest, it's an uphill walk back away from enemy forces.
Yeah.
I think that's the only critique I would have is that low
you'd
ground is
wanna have
very
your element
tempting.
with you.
Yeah. And I think I recognize that as a flaw in my own plan as well.
Yeah, I pushed him off my my hill up there too. That's a great point.
I do
Yeah.
like how, under, I guess, this interpretation of the situation, you did use all the elements on the board. While that isn't technically correct, I think in the future that's a really good thing to remember. Because God knows when I've tried to do some of the platoon quals, I forget I have a mat team or some shit like that. So, like, I do appreciate that you did take those details into account of, like, okay, I've got these pieces, let's find stuff for them.
And Tari's is cheating because he's already read the next scenarios, I feel like. he's thinking ahead.
Uh-huh.
All right, final critiques. Going once, going
Well,
twice.
you have 3 MG teams on here, but we only have 2, I think.
I think 3 MG teams split across 2 squads. So
No, I think it's just the two because you see the two little chevron marks to first and second.
those are indicators. So I
Yeah.
guess just
Yeah.
2 MG teams.
Yeah, and you have both of them with you though, so deploying them right away is really good. It says in the scenario that second squad's MG team has made it to you, right?
Um,
One of the MG teams, yes.
Yeah,
Not
so if you
the-
already had one with you when the bomb went off, then that presumably means you have both with you.
You did not have one with you.
Never mind.
Exciting. Who's next?
yeah, there's a little ambiguity in some of it too.
Honestly,
Uh,
this just stresses the importance of like understanding the situation at hand, which is difficult, legitimately.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty much just a react to fire drill.
Yeah.
You get out your mad minute, you establish a base of fire, and you establish a maneuvering element.
Mm-hmm. Or in this case, the enemy establishes the base of fire unit for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Final critiques. Going once. Going twice. Okay. Who's up next? Any takers?
I saw Brick peeking earlier, so I'm going to volunteer him.
Oh, I
My
sat
boy
out this
looking at my
one.
map.
Sorry, I was
Yeah.
just a student on this one.
Lambda, I think you're the only one left.
I don't think I'm the only one left, but I will go. Go to my board. All right, so I talked through half my time. So I got to step 2 of what was going to be 3. Also, the lines turned out rather faded. So do note that there are 2 lines here. Make those. Nope, I can't make those boulders now. Or boulder now. Anyways, there's 2 lines. But let's go. So, as just a brief, this is how I understood the situation, since I think that's probably something that we all have different understandings of, at least so far, listening to everyone talk. I understood it as Corson shows up. I have one squad member down. I also end up with MG team, and we are in the rest of the situation as we all came to understand it, which is second, third squad are under fire, pinned, able to return fire, but not able to maneuver. And that's where we were. So my idea for this, and my, I guess, brief for this would be, I'm assuming again that we have similar structure to how we break our squads down, which I think is pretty, not super close to the Marines, but close enough. 2 fire teams with a lead element. So ideally the plan would go something like this, where I'd ask 1 and 2 to do a fire team bound towards the hill, while M&G stays behind and covers, and I'd ask the Corpsman specifically to take care of my 1 casualty, who I don't think we can bring along. After we do that, 1 bounding first. Once we take the hill, 1 holds the west to the south, and at that point, MMG or our machine gun cover team can come up to support the southern suppressive fire. Third step I didn't get to because, again, I talked through half of my planning time, but at that point I think you really have some breathing room to think and either see what the situation develops to, or you really plan an assault at that point.
For sure. So for this one, can you pretend that I am your element and break it down by the exact orders you would give me to follow out this plan?
Sure, yeah. All right, so 1, 2, we're in a fire team bound to the hill. To our west here, MMG, I'll need you to cover if we said this is a town, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cover the town. Fire. 2, MMG hold here until 1 gets on the hill. Once 1's established, MMG and 2 follow up. We'll hold the hill on the top of the ridge. 1 west, 2 south. MMG, find a position that works for you, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, cool.
Solid. I like it.
All right. I'm putting
Honestly, if I had
5
more time to think about it, I probably would have done something like moving into the town. I do see, in retrospect, why Chush said that was not a great idea, but
Well, hey, you didn't do it, so you're good.
All right. 5 minutes going on the clock. Let's open up critique to the group.
I think just the reverse of Antari's solution, which is that you're only using 1/3 of the people you have on the field. And like I know the other two are pinned down. And I don't know, maybe it was part of your third stage plan was to get a runner to them and get them into the fight. But as it looks to me right now, you're leaving 2/3 of your manpower and you're not doing anything with it.
No, you're right. I 100% forgot that the Platoon Commander was probably like, in a bad way, is more than just like not dead, but not useful as a commander. At that point, one would be taking over the actual platoon. So I only thought of it as a squad level tactic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the extra challenge there as well is not having radios to communicate with, because then you've got to like worry about a man running behind and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You definitely hope that the follow-on squads would recognize that the fire has lifted, but at the same time, you can't 100% trust that for sure.
Yeah, and I also left the medic and whoever was injured by booby trap behind, so hopefully nothing bad happens to them, I guess.
I think I like the specificity in your orders that you provided, specifically saying which fire teams go where once they're on the hill. I think that's something that I forgot in my own planning, and I think that's really good, and I should incorporate that going forward.
I also like the fact that you left the MG team to open up as well to cover that approach, if I heard you correctly.
Yeah.
Just because I think getting that fire out immediately when you're taking sporadic fire is extra crucial. And if you've got the asset with you, may as well use them,
Yeah, if I were able to draw this on Arma map, because to be honest, my map drawing skills in this worse than Arma, it would hopefully be a little bit more clear that these two like very faint lines are the area that I want MMG covering or the MG team covering.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
I've got nothing further.
Yeah, same.
This is a
Pretty
pretty
simple
straightforward
scenario.
Yeah, it is. And I think while there aren't many scenarios, all of us doing the same one may not be to our best like approach for it.
Later on in the book, they get more complex, and I think we'll start to see more deviation from each other's, which will be beneficial.
Yeah, okay. That's fair.
Yeah, this one is really, really basic as a starter.
There's also, I think, a team play element we could use as well if we deem it fit, especially if we get more people playing. And that way it's more collaborative between individuals, and then we all brief a group plan. So we can discuss that later. But do we have anyone else? I see another one on the board.
Yeah, Kine did one. I can go through mine if we want.
Fuck yeah, let's do it.
Couldn't figure out how to name my board, so it's just untitled.
It's 'cause
there I am. Cool. So I didn't realize that symbol meant MG, so I just wrote MG on the map like a fucking tool. But yeah. So I guess to do it in the briefing style. MG team, I need you to move west and secure that high ground and start suppressing fire down in the town. Assuming I have a grenadier, I'll send the grenadier with them too to start popping some grenades in and preferably some smoke too instead of obscuring the enemy's view. Once the enemy is sufficiently suppressed, we're going to move south with the corpsman carrying the injured man, and we're going to go down to where the platoon commander sit. It's a really shitty place for a CCP, but it's better to keep them both in the same place for the corpsman to work on, rather than having them spread so far apart. Once we're there, and once that area is less suppressed, we can have access to the radio, relay the fact that we have 2 casualties, and ideally call for fire on the town, and then make it air cover's problem rather than ours. If we can't get air cover, we're going to keep moving south under the cover of MG's fire, and we're going to send 3rd squad to take the high ground to the south to continue laying down fire. At that point, we'll have to signal to MG to retreat using whatever signals are preset up within our chain of command, and we'll cover their retreat south, and we'll exit back south the way we came.
This is
Okay, cool. I like the clarity of orders there. I'm putting 5 minutes on the board and turning it over for critique. I think immediately I do have a piece of feedback where I love the fact that you're taking the casualty and taking positive command back towards the element. There's a concept that comes up later in this book, actually, about how we are the only element that is not pinned under fire or the only element with freedom of movement. And I think that's the critique I would have of moving back into this zone of fire isn't as useful as following the MG team. Though I really do like the fact that you have the MG team move up to lift that suppressive. I think it would be stronger with the full squad, but I also understand where you're coming from of getting back to the commander.
Yeah, I came up with a plan where priority one is get to the radio and tell command what's happening.
Mhm.
We've had the head cut off of our element. And it was only after I'd drawn my plan and we were doing other critique that I remembered I had an injured man in my squad I had to deal with. So, yeah.
Yeah, I would echo what Apo said, which is I wouldn't move. I do specifying smoke just to give cover to the teams in the open does make it. I mean, still a zone of fire, right? They're probably still trying to suppress, even if they can't see it directly. Instead of making the casualty collection point in the middle, maybe would have been something to, because at this point you're assuming you can move into it, and that they can probably move out of it. That you move the casualties out and have the two fire teams or squads that are stuck there do movement instead of moving into it. Sorry if that didn't make sense. I can elaborate.
Oh, no, that makes sense. The big thing for me, and I think all of us are running into this, is how do I do this without radios? Because doing this without radios, doing this with radios would be so much fucking easier.
Yeah. It's both freeing yet restricting at the same time, because on one hand you have no overhead, so you can conduct whatever maneuvers you want within reason. But on the other hand, you cannot make any of your supporting elements or whatever move with you.
You know, what if we just picked up our casualty and went north?
That's kind of what Kind Hamster did. Once reconsolidated, just walk out, which is like fair.
Well, no, walk out south. That's the thing, is that if walking out north was an option too, then I absolutely commit my whole squad minus one runner to that hill, provide cover, get everybody to keep moving north. We'll exfil north, sure, but we don't know what's north. We only know what's south.
Mm.
Cool.
So for all we know, if we keep going north, we hit another ambush, and then we're, in the getting enveloped.
Yeah, smart.
Anybody have anything else that they might want to bring up?
Cool. We will let that lie then. Any other finished combatants on the board? I think we've covered everybody, right?
What about you?
I mean, I can.
Yes. Tear the moderator apart.
I had effectively a similar plan.
He's a fucking cheater, though. He read the answer.
Well, no shit. Okay. So for my plan, red and blue team, I need you moving towards the hilltop. MG, immediately lay down suppressive fire towards the city. As soon as red and blue team have taken the hilltop, MG, you are to regroup with them as they lay down suppressive fire for your cover. I'm sending a runner back with the medic down to 2 platoon. Get there if you're able. Let them know what the plan is, that we're moving that way, and then reconvene with us again if you are able. Teams, once we're at the hilltop, we will consider the situation and possibly move on the town. Right now, I want us taking that hilltop, lifting fire for our platoon, and holding there until our platoon recovers. And that's my plan.
Okay, you are actually a fucking cheater.
Look.
All right. I have one piece of very important critique.
Send it.
Which is dadgummit, we are Marines, we have a corpsman, we don't have a fucking medic.
That's an important piece of feedback there, Apo. Take that to heart.
They're gonna fucking shove my face into the rice paddy till I inhale mud.
I think in terms of critique, this plan follows what like both Antares and a few other folks did. So I think all the critiques there in terms of like whatnot would match up, with the exception that you didn't move your guys in the low ground. Good job. Also, good work on the runner. You fucking cheat.
Look, I'm a moderator.
Mhm.
I've done this once.
I would. The only thing I would improve is say, like, to specifically say to the runner, come back if you can, and if you can, bring the radio man with you when you're coming back.
That's
Ooh.
fair, but if I bring the radio man, isn't that still the same problem where we wouldn't have comms with the platoon commander because now I have the radio man?
You are now the platoon commander.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see you.
Is
No,
yeah,
that's,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
no, that's
Yeah.
actually a really good point. Yeah.
That's also what I got confused about.
Again,
Yeah, because
you used to
we're the
Arma.
leader of first squad, and platoon commander's hit, and we can't find a platoon sergeant. So that means we're acting platoon commander, acting platoon sergeant, whatever we are.
Yeah.
To the Marines, what is their structure in Vietnam at the platoon level? Do they have a sergeant?
We'll just say it follows BW structure. Smile.
Okay.
In the situation, it says something about you can't find a platoon sergeant.
Oh shit. Well, it looks like I'm good at reading.
Do we have any further critiques for this? Otherwise, I'm excited to move on to the next one if we're still up to do one more. This one was pretty straightforward. We can, unless we want to go over the answer as well. Going once? Going
I say we
twice?
go for the next one and we can do, another scenario and then answers can be read on people's own time. They are incredibly valuable. They do it really in depth and I think it's really cool. But we would be here for like another 20 minutes reading through.
Okie dokie. Let me get the new image uploaded then, and we'll get started on the next scenario.
You said there is a solution. Is there like a summary you can give to us?
Yeah, let me go down to it and give it real quick while Chesh finds the next.
It's essentially Apo's answer. The fuck.
Yeah,
That's why
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
saying it's cheating.
I have a fucking eidetic memory when it comes to this shit, dude.
Sure, fucking cheater.
Sure, fucking cheater.
I'm getting the image up
Okay.
right now. One sec.
Yeah, so ambush at dusk, the way that they want to run it, effectively from how they do it is you lay down fire with the MG teams that you have, and then you move up onto the hilltop, lay down suppressive, and wait for fire to lift on your other command. You would also send a runner down to go communicate that you're moving to your squad, so that they're able to understand how you're maneuvering and not shoot at you or shoot through you, and that kind of thing. Is there an easy way for me to copy and paste like an image onto the board?
Windows Shift S.
Well, yeah, but it doesn't let you copy paste.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's annoying. That's stupid, actually. Here, it's in the channel chat. That's kind of their solution to it.
Control Alt Shift print screen to capture the window.
Hey. More or less what Antares put out.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty
Except-
much.
Antares is also a cheater, but he's a cheater in real life because he fucking National Guard.
Well, sure.
They also go over a really interesting concept called Cheng and Chi, which is effectively maneuver warfare, where anytime a platoon element becomes fixed in place, the other element that is not fixed is by definition the maneuver element. And this is a fluid relationship because if your maneuver element begins to maneuver and then takes fire, and now the other element is free to move, that is now the maneuver element. So it's always relative towards the other element. And it allows you to think of the battlefield in terms of fluidity. Of once I am reacting, now the other team can be proactive. Now they're reacting, I can be proactive. That kind of balanced situation. But they call it Cheng and Chi, which can be a bit confusing.
All right. We good with the answer? All right. Anybody takers for reading Platoon Ambush really quick? I will volunteer every day. I love reading. I love the sound of my own voice.
Yeah.
Okay. Page 12 on the document. This is Platoon Ambush. So the situation. You are the second squad leader of 1st Platoon, Company A, 1st Battalion, 1st Marines. You have been fighting enemy infantry forces in wooded, rolling terrain. Your platoon commander tells you that the platoon has been given the mission to conduct a patrol behind enemy lines to establish an ambush along a main supply route frequently used by enemy supply convoys to move supplies forward, west, from depot, which is located about 5 kilometers east of the ambush site. The convoys usually consist of a machine gun jeep in front, followed by a half dozen or so covered trucks. There's a strong enemy garrison of motorized forces at depot. The lieutenant plans to set in an L-shaped ambush with 2 squads and 2 attached machine gun squads at a bend in the road just east of Beaver Dam Run. It'll be like shooting fish in a barrel, he says. He plans to blow the log bridge to the west, detonating it when he springs the ambush. Your squad, with one 60mm mortar team attached, will protect the other flank of the ambush from a position on the high ground to the east of the ambush site. You'll be linked to the ambush by landline. In his patrol order under tasks, the lieutenant gives you the following instructions. When we get to the ORP, objective rallying point, you'll move out first to your position to provide security for the rest of the platoon while it sets in the ambush. The platoon will move out 30 minutes later. You'll take a phone and Lance Corporal Cooley, the platoon runner, with you. He'll run the wire from your position back to the ambush site. Find a position that gives you a good view of the road towards depot so you can provide early warning and information of the convoy's approach. When you get in position, stay concealed and stay put. Once the ambush is sprung, you'll isolate the objective area by engaging any enemy forces trying to get in or out. You'll provide protection for the platoon as it withdraws to the ORP. It's especially important that you delay any react forces coming from the depot garrison. A green star cluster is the signal that you can withdraw back to the ORP. Surprise is essential, so it's imperative under all circumstances that you stay concealed and not open fire until the ambush has been sprung. Got it? Before departing on the patrol, you draw 1 AT-4 per fire team. In addition, each of your squad members is carrying 1 60mm mortar round. Everything goes as planned to the ORP. From the ORP, you move out to your position. En route, you cross a narrow animal track not on your map. You reach your destination and find a good position from which you can cover the depot road. You set in the mortar to cover the road to the east by direct lay. You hook up the landline, but the connection is bad. Neither party can understand what the other is saying. Meanwhile, something attracts your attention to the southeast. Movement of some kind? You send first fire team to check it out and return to supervising the defensive preparations. Apo. Smile.
I was not following along. Where are we at?
15 minutes later.
15 minutes later, first fire team returns out of breath. What have you got, Corporal Turner? You ask. An enemy foot patrol, 20 to 25 men moving west through the woods, about 200 yards south, auto weapons and light machine guns, he replies. Did they see you? Hell no, he says with a grin. Who do you think you're talking to? You try to get through to the platoon on the landline, but the connection is very bad. Roger, I copy that the convoy's on the way, comes the reply. We're ready for him. Remember, don't engage until after the ambush goes. Negative, you say, as you try to repeat your message. Corporal Turner taps you on the arm and points down the road to the east. The convoy approaches around a bend about 300 to 400 yards away. 2 machine gun jeeps followed by at least 7 trucks and more coming into view, moving about 15 to 25 miles per hour. In a couple of minutes, things are going to get interesting. What do you do? Requirement: in a time limit of 5 minutes, describe your actions and issue the frag order you will give to your subordinates. Make sure to include the intent of your plan, provide a sketch of your actions and an explanation. So again, you're going to brief this like you are giving orders to a group in Arma. Pretend that I'm, your element that you're briefing, and then have your map ready and your sketch out. Any questions?
Yeah, looking at the actual diagram. So is that 3 fire teams?
So you are 2 fire teams and a mortar team.
Okay. I'm just wondering what the circle line.
Yeah, I assume that it's our Arma composition.
Oh no, I'm wondering what the circle with the line through it is. What are those meant to represent?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. I'm not a Marine from the 80s.
Mortars?
No, the mortar's in the back, I think. Circle with the up arrow.
Yeah,
I
it's a
think-
single 60mm.
I think Marines technically use a 3.
They do.
fire team.
Yeah.
And that changes kind of how you'd approach this problem, I think.
Sort of. You can assume for this one, since it's BTF structure, you have 2 fire teams and an ASL element. Maybe like a plussed up ASL or something like that.
Thick
Since you
ASL.
have Lance Corporal with you, who's the runner, who's not part of your attachment or your element.
Okay.
Okay, any further questions? All right, with that, I'm starting the 5-minute timer. Get ready, on your marks, go. We have hit the 2-minute mark.
2 minutes left or 2 minutes through?
2 minutes left.
There you go. Thank you.
$30 seconds left. Timer is up. Pens down.
Can I kind of like mind's eye this?
Yeah, sure.
How far is our position from the road? Do we have an idea?
It is less than 100 meters away from the road.
Okay. And how far back is mortar team?
They are almost on top of you.
Okay. And approximate for how far the enemy infantry were spotted in the woods?
They were 200 yards to the south at the moment that they were observed.
Okay. And we have friendlies to the west, motor pool to the east.
Yep.
Yeah, motor pool is 5K to the east.
Gotcha.
And if you're wondering, the road is to your north and goes east-west and then curves to the L shape where the rest of the platoon ambushes.
Gotcha. Was there any indication for what kind of rounds mortar had?
Assume HE.
60 millimeter.
And then you said two fire teams and you had a lance corporal.
Yeah,
That's
plus up
that's
ASL.
all up. Okay. All right,
And-
so
Go ahead, Sam.
my briefing would be send the lance corporal to notify the rest of the platoon of the infantry to their south. The AT will stay near the road. I will reposition the rest of the forces towards the infantry. And then I will have mortars start prepping fire on the known infantry location, as well as a halfway point between the motor pool and us, with the intent of, once the ambush takes place, we send mortar for the previously known enemy position so that the runner can reference the flank as the enemy last known to the other element, the platoon. And then I would expect the enemy infantry to come towards us because of the mortars, and that's why it repositioned the other teams towards that direction. And left the AT near the road to handle that.
Okay, gotcha. So I think like my first critique of that plan would be we're already with a convoy that we know is oversized, and now it feels like we're biting off two contacts. Already a platoon sized element with 40 to 25, and now a plus size convoy, which we might have to engage before it's in position. What would prevent us from being pinched between those two?
For reference, the enemy patrol was notably 20 to 25 men, so platoon-sized force against just your squad.
Yeah, we would not initiate until the ambush initiated.
Okay, so you're playing with the related rates of those two maneuvers.
Yes, so I'm assuming the enemy does not know about us or our friendlies in the area, and I'm prepping the friendly forces to watch their backs, as well as engaging the enemy last known, and then preparing to engage the other element coming down the road to reinforce.
Okay. I like your use of the
Trying-
mortar team as part of that suppressive too. I think it shows good initiative to start facing towards the main threat of the patrol as well.
And this is all mind's eye and trying to follow along. So
Yeah.
Um, What would be your reaction if the enemy convoy arrives at the ambush before the enemy patrol arrives on your flank? Is that a best case scenario for you, or how would you react to that?
Oh, I thought they were going away from us. Are
The
they
enemy-
headed towards us?
So the enemy patrol is crossing behind you. So, like, let's say the road is described as being north of you, and you're on a hilltop. It is crossing in a saddle behind your element, while the convoy is in front of your element.
Gotcha. Okay, I had mind's eye a little different. I had them to the west of me.
Mhm.
I mean, if they were to see us, then yeah, we would likely return fire first. And at that point, they'd be probably too close for mortar to support ourselves. So that threw that out of the plan. But what I had envisioned was they were going away from us towards the other platoon.
Mm-hmm.
They might. They're crossing a path behind you that should probably lead to the platoon based on bearing, but they may.
Yeah, there is a reasonable take that they may bypass you completely without noticing you if you're good enough in concealment.
Gotcha. Well, that's about all I can go over with mind's eye. So.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Do we have any volunteers to get critiqued in that case?
I gotta get going fairly soon.
Okie dokie.
So I'm already seeing one thing I could have done better, just now that I've had more time to look at it. But what I came up with within my time limit was first order of business is send the runner off and make sure the lieutenant knows what's going on. Next, I dispatch that same was a fire team element that first fire team that have actually gotten eyes on the enemy, send them back down south and get them to start tracking the enemy as they're moving west to keep an eye on them. Sorry, I'm going to do this the right way. Runner, you're going to go talk to command and let them know what's going on. First, fire team 1, I want you to move south to where you saw the enemy patrol last, move west, track them, keep an eye on them. If you see that they get eyes on our ambush team, open fire, draw attention, make sure that they're not being snuck up on. Don't engage unless you have to alert our friendlies, or if they see you first. And then second fire team, position yourself. I drew to the south, but more like south-southwest of our position as a screening element in case the enemy forces come back this way and begin engaging us. Whereas I will stay with the remaining fire team, provide security for the mortar team. We're going to keep all of the AT with us so that if we have to do our job with the ambush, then we can do that with all the AT. Ideally, the enemy, well, yeah, realistically, the enemy is probably going to engage with our ambush element, and so it's the first fire team's job to engage with the enemy and provide an audible signal that our friendlies are being snuck up on and also distract the enemy. And yeah, the one thing I'm realizing I should do is I shouldn't send someone to follow the enemy. I should instead just start opening up on them with my mortars once the ambush begins. But I've already made this decision, so yeah.
Yeah, solid. We'll open up the floor to critiques from members first, and then I will put my thoughts down. Anybody have anything for kind?
My only thought here, and this was maybe something I was worried about, is if you notice this enemy patrol within 200 meters, I'm still unsure how well a runner is going to get down to that path and not get seen. But additionally, like, this may be a bad assumption, but I imagine these paths aren't necessarily not booby-trapped, so I don't know if it's... Yeah. I don't know. This is more me reflecting on my own choices as well. I'm unsure. I also told the runner to run, but I'm unsure if the runner would be able to make it necessarily.
I think it is... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
That's why I'm sending the other fire team to trail the enemy element, is if my runner doesn't make it, if he steps on a landmine or something, then the second way that the other friendlies can learn they're being ambushed is if they hear gunfire.
Gotcha.
I think it is reasonable to assume that the runner will arrive at platoon at the same time the enemy patrol arrives close enough to you, because the approximate distance between the platoon and your element is about 200-250 meters, and the patrol is 200 to 250 meters out. I think they said 200 yards, which is like what the conversion is, like what, 1 to 1.09 or something like that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it'll be just about the same time. Yeah.
Yep.
Anybody else got anything before moderators?
I guess I'm next. I didn't do it on my board.
Hold on. We got more critique for Kai really quick. You're good. Let's see. So, what was your decision making when it came to the platoon leader explicitly telling you not to open fire under any means? Is your rationale that if you don't hear, then it compromises you to a greater degree than if you hadn't? How do you parse that?
I'm not planning on opening fire. Like I'm just gonna have the blocking force there, but their orders are not to fire unless fired upon.
Okay.
It's just that I'd rather have them have to return fire slightly southwest of the mortar team than have us all be in one place and just get snuck up on by the enemies if they decide to deviate north for some reason.
Gotcha. Okay.
I also think the shadowing element was a really interesting choice. Like, I hadn't considered that, period. I mean, I think you've kind of like followed through with a flaw in it, but I thought it was a cool idea to be screening in that way, though I do think it opens up more variables than it really solves for you.
Yeah, a definite weakness of that is that if my runner doesn't make it, my friendlies won't know they're there, and there's a possibility of friendly fire because of that. I just wanted to make sure there was some kind of early warning for an ambush element in case they're not covering their ass.
Yeah, I think a good way to do that without having those same principle or those same problems is to establish your team more as a blocking force and be like, hey, if they cross this clearing or if you see them moving here, open fire. And that way you've still got that same contact report without the risk of friendly fire.
The issue with that I see though is that then they're further from me, so I'm losing some of my commanding control, and there's still a risk of friendly fire if they get sandwiched in between the enemy force and our friendlies. Like if you're talking about the clearing directly south of third squad,
Mhm.
then there's a very good chance that third squad will engage my guys as well as the enemy if they're in between third squad and the enemy and they don't know they're there.
I would also be a little concerned about if they do get engaged and you aren't able to help them or maneuver them in a way that you want because they're outside of your verbal range at that point.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Is there a
Yep.
reason why you didn't choose to do something like a reverse slope defense using the saddle as your initiating point?
Because I'm trying not to engage the enemy patrol. I'm
Right,
trying
right,
not to
but
fuck up the ambush plan.
sorry, this was in following up with the blocking idea.
Oh,
Is there a specific reason why you chose against, if you were to follow through with like a blocking plan, you chose against reverse slope and instead wanted to do the clearing based one?
I shouldn't have drawn the block where I drew it. I should have drawn it more southwest. The
Mm,
goal, I'm not trying to have them set up like an actual defensive position. I'm just trying to have them be for them to make first contact with the enemy rather than my mortar team.
right.
I'm not having them go and sandbag that. I'm not having them go and prepare to get into a firefight. I'm just having them be there, and if they're engaged, they're going to fall back.
Yeah, solid.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, I got to get going now. I got a thing to go to, but this has been great, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.
Yeah, thanks for
fuck yeah,
coming,
thanks
Kine.
for
We'll
coming on.
we'll have it open the next time it runs. Be happy
All
to
right,
see you
see you
there.
then.
Catch you
We'll have
later.
We'll have it closed next time around.
I think it's every other week is what we've got it running currently.
Cool.
Okay, Lambda, did you want to go next?
I think I'm all that's left unless wait, did Brick went first, right?
Brick did it.
Oh hell yeah!
I went
Rick-
first.
Do you want me to go
wanna
first?
go then?
I can go.
Yeah, well,
Alright,
let's do
Brick.
it.
Excuse my piss poor drawing.
No worries. It does look vaguely phallic.
What the fuck?
So I was running off a few basic assumptions that I'm now realizing are probably incorrect. Like I thought we could see the patrol from our position, which changes a lot. It kind of changes how I ran this. So if I'm going to do this in the right order, runner, head back to platoon, inform them. Platoon size enemy patrol heading incoming to the west from their east. And then I assume he will make it. And then from there, I order rats to separate from B1 and 2 and stay with the mortars. I'm keeping the mortars and the rats engaged on the convoy. I don't think the mortar is kind of mine to use to protect ourselves here. I've kind of assumed like that is marked for the overall mission, and I'm going to keep it that way. The rats are there to help them survive, I guess. From then on, I take B1 and 2, and we hold with mortar until we watch the enemy patrol pass. I assume the patrol will pass. I personally don't think they would head north into that little thingy, into that gap there. I imagine they would keep continuing west. And so once they pass west, B1 and 2 assault this passing force, kind of like a surprise assault. My assumption from then on is that platoon has received my message, and hopefully, please God, they are coming to save me. That's basically it. That's what I would do in Arma. I would be like, platoon, please save me.
Amen. Yeah, personally, I really like the decision to go aggressive with it. What influenced your factor on that? Being told like to hold fire prior, and now we're gonna commit to this.
Sorry. That was I'm trying to wait if they. My assumption is they pass about the same time the convoy does.
Yeah. Okay.
Hmm.
I'm assuming it's like a blocking force for the convoy. You know, they're walking parallel with it.
Mhm.
So I assume they're going to stay like maybe ahead or more or less in step. And it's not like we're waiting until the convoy is right on us to fire. So I'm assuming like they're going to pass more or less once the mortars open up. So we're like hitting a like a reaction force or like a blocking force that's passing by us. And so that's my hope with only engaging with one squad, probably on either side of the woods or something like that. You know, I would gauge the terrain in the moment to see how I would assault.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
I think one thing to note that I think I've seen like what both Juju and Kind make in terms of assumptions is that or maybe I'm wrong about this, and tell me off if I am wrong about this. The initiating element is squad 1 and 3. So 2 is just a flank protection element. That 60mm is yours to defend the flank with. So it is entirely tasked to you, and your rats are just there to prevent the QRF from rescuing the convoy that is being engaged by 1 and 3. And so the assumption here is that yes, the convoy will pass you probably at the same time as the enemy patrol will, but you are not the initiating element, so they will continue driving until they hit 1 and 3.
Okay,
Unless you
that makes
engage
a
the
lot
enemy
more
patrol.
sense. I thought it was really weird to have your mortars like way out front.
Yeah.
That
The
didn't make any
mortars,
sense. Okay, I'm there now.
yeah, they are just a purely defensive element attached to you. But yeah, otherwise, I think this is solid. I agree with the criticisms that Apo levied, but I think I appreciate the aggressiveness of it too, despite directly countermanding the platoon leader's orders.
I didn't say, I would tell the runner like in the moment I would be better at this, but in the I would tell the runner like inform platoon that if they pass us, we will assault them.
Yeah.
Like I would be open and honest about it, but I'm like, they're coming. We kind of got to do something about this.
Yeah. I think I have the same question for you that I had for Kind. Is there a reason why you decided to sit on the hilltop? Or if I'm understanding this correctly, you are waiting for them to bypass you. Is there a reason why you didn't try and establish like an L shape with a blocking element in front of them to maybe get more of an effect on them if and when they do pass by?
Because this is my first theory Thursday, and I haven't found it yet.
That's fine. No
Totally
worries.
good.
Yeah, absolutely. I did not mean it as a.
I need to level up first.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. But yeah, I like it. Lambda, you got anything?
Yeah, I did it in Paint because I don't know, Paint seemed easier. I want to share my screen quick to make that happen. I also put see that, but it helps to zoom in here because I did when I wrote it, and it's hard to. There are notes here that aren't necessarily things you'd have to write down, but are just there for me to be able to explain this better. Because this plan, while hasty, is rather complex. So with that in mind, everyone see it?
Yep.
All right, everyone can hear me and understand me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, cool. Then we'll go into it here. So here is how I'd give my orders. So A2, you're going to hold the line north. A1 and ASL, we'll give your RAT4s to you. A2, you'll hold north. Mortar, want you to reorient south since this is just a lay line. Aiming, you should be good to just get calls on that from there. A1 and ASL, we're going to push down to the ridge of this hill looking down over the saddle. At that point, we're going to wait for the enemy patrol to advance through that path. If they're advancing along the path and into the woods there, we may wrap around them. Alternatively, if they do push up that saddle, we're going to hold our position here. Hopefully, at that point, the runner, who you're going to run right now, to go to platoon to let them know what's going on. Hopefully, at that point, though, the convoy, which should be past us, and to our ambush at that point, will kick off. And if they are in our saddle, that's great. We get them there. If not, we may have to wrap around them into the low ground there. And that's it.
Solid. I like it.
So yeah, basically here with these lines, these would be how I'd motion on so you know how you can point in a map.
Yeah.
The pointing is basically to reference, like, if they make it down this trail, they're going to be drawing lines for 2. There'd be these lines that are actually drawn, and then obviously that is only in the case they go through. I mean, drawn purple. Only in the case they go through. if they do turn up that hill there to the high ground over our RP, we just hold position.
I guess I have the same question for you as I had for Brick. You have good enfilading fire positions here along their line. Presumably, the enemy patrol is in a column formation or something similar to that, maybe staggered column.
Yeah.
Is there any reason why you're not establishing element as a hard blocking element to prevent them from proceeding, maybe escaping forward towards the platoon?
So part of that is that the convoy is already reinforced. We talked about that before, I think, but just to outline it again, it's still the same number of trucks behind it, but there are 2 machine gun trucks up front, which might make it a little bit more difficult for the platoon to handle. So we're not necessarily sure how they'll deal with that or when they'll deal with that. So if these guys get up to us and start passing us by the time, we don't want to be the ones to kick off that ambush and make their lives deadlier, right? Because 2 machine guns opening up on you and all of a sudden they have they're not unawares anymore, right? So now you have 2 machine guns that might get shots off before they're suppressed.
Yep.
So I don't want to do that. The second thing is if we put a blocking force here, they're downhill, right? Like the saddle itself, they're probably the peak of it's like right along here.
Yep.
And this is downhill, and like I don't know. It's still an ambush, and you'd still technically get the advantage of terrain there because you'd be watching them crest, but I don't like the idea of being downhill in an ambush.
Solid. I think that's good reasoning. Solid reasoning. And especially with how you've just to highlight something, is especially how you have your teams arranged. You have your one of your teams to the left and right of that saddle. You can sort of, if they do squirt out to the northwest, you can sort of catch them if they try and push that because of how your teams are arranged in those defensive positions.
Yeah, and that's an important part of it there. And obviously, we're still maintaining our job here of stopping enemy QRFs with A2.
Yep.
I think that brings up an interesting possible unintended consequence is they could squirt southeast into your ORP. I don't know.
Southwest.
Oh, southwest. Yeah, sorry.
Direction
Into
south.
your ORP. Look, I always get them mixed up for some godforsaken reason.
If they're doing that, then they have to go uphill. I mean, even if they are doing escape and evasion right at this point, there's going to be gunfire. Platoon should know, hopefully that runner doesn't die.
Yeah.
And if they don't, Platoon heard gunfire. So hopefully Platoon's not just like taking a casual walk down this path.
I forgot to bring this.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say something. I forgot to bring this up in the other ones. But have you... What is your consideration for if you engage the enemy patrol at that saddle, if they are not all instantly suppressed or escape out to the southeast or are killed, how are you leaving the break contact portion to platoon's discretion at this point? Because now that patrol is in between you and the ORP essentially.
That's a great question. At that point, I'd kind of hope the runner would be able to do his job and run.
Okay.
So yeah, I did kind of leave it to platoon there. At this point, I'm assuming we just hold our high ground, both because if we don't, we leave the rest of the platoon open to getting a QRF. Yeah. And if we do try to move out, the platoon doesn't know where we are, right?
And that is absolutely valid. This question is just to get your brain turning.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, this is looking for a signal flare, or at least in evening or dawn hours. So it makes it harder if we move farther away. Because yeah, I didn't bring it up, but this would be a great situation where you drop a flare over the saddle region, or even just over the hill, and it does a lot to cast shadows towards you.
Yep. Very solid. Yeah, the hope here is definitely you either kill them all in that first volley, or platoon, gets their shit together and rescues you to get back to the ORP or something like that.
That's at least my yeah.
I agree.
You're up next, right? This is your turn.
I did not make one because I am a moderator. That first one was for everybody's benefit.
Wow. Even I made one that time.
I'm absolutely dodging. I know the answers. It's actually supremely unfair for me to make a plan because I just do one of the answers.
I mean, because you asked. Well, you. I still think it's dumb, but whatever.
There's actually
I didn't actually do it.
The cresting defense is actually not a good answer. It is probably the least tactically viable, and I think out of all the answers given, it maybe not least tactically viable, but is the most likely to result in friendly casualties, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Is
In that case-
that's the actual solution, though, right? That's what they actually did. Is they
So they list 6 possible options for this one.
oh
Yeah.
god, okay.
We should
Yeah.
go over them.
Yeah,
This
I
will
was
be
actually-
our this will be our final stuff for this session. We'll go over these answers and we'll end it there, or have a conversation and then end it there.
Because this one's
Yeah, we can look
really
at Atlas
interesting
first.
on what it gives you.
Mhm.
Yeah, if you want to look at mine, I mean, mine is just another kind of one of the answers I went with.
Oh, okay. Why don't we talk through the answers and you can point
Okay.
out how you
Yeah.
did yours?
I effectively set up an L shape and had the mortar platoon do it while I'm like, okay, we can pull back and hopefully platoon gets us, but we're committing. So I'll start us off. We're on page 45, platoon ambush. In all operations, a moment arrives when brave decisions have to be made if an enterprise is to be carried through. He wins who fires first and can deliver the heaviest fire. Erwin Rommel. Seeing the
Wait.
bigger picture.
Wait, those are two different. Whatever.
They were. I
The quotes
skipped-
are two different people.
Yeah, I absolutely
English
pulled a
major,
faux
by the
pas
way.
there. Look, man, I was watching the plagiarism video by H Bomber Guy, and I decided to be a plagiarist because of it. Okay. Seeing the bigger picture, platoon ambush is a tough problem. As with ambush at dusk, this scenario places a squad leader in a situation in which, on his own initiative, he must make decisions and take actions that impact at a higher level. Sorry about the gendered language in this, by the way. The platoon faces a dilemma. A presumably favorable occurrence in the approach of the convoy as expected, and a very threatening occurrence in the unanticipated appearance of the enemy patrol. Our hypothetical squad leader is the most senior member of the platoon who sees the dilemma. Unfortunately, due to technical problems, his landline communications with the platoon commander aren't working. He is thrust into the position of having to make decisions at the platoon level. A lot of the responsibility for the success or survival of the platoon in the next few minutes will rest on his shoulders. In order to act properly in this situation, we, as the squad leader, must think not at just the squad level, but at the platoon level. We must look at the bigger picture and consider the effects of our decisions on the larger outcome. The concept applies at all levels and is important enough that we can call it a tactical fundamental. Our understanding of the bigger picture should provide a frame of reference for all of our decisions. Furthermore, as a general rule, we should think at least 2 levels up and not just 1. In other words, a platoon commander would consider the battalion situation in making his decisions. Likewise, a squad leader would normally consider the company situation. In this particular case, the platoon is acting independently. In making his tactical decisions, the commander at any level asks himself, what can I do at my level to help the higher situation or further the accomplishment of the higher mission? In this scenario, the platoon commander's orders did not specifically cover what to do in the event of an enemy force coming in from behind the platoon. The platoon commander anticipated forces coming down the road from depot, but not through the woods. We would argue that dealing with any unexpected enemy movement from the east falls under our squad's general mission of flank security. But even if this were not the case, if dealing with the enemy patrol were clearly not part of our squad's assigned mission, we should realize we must act anyway for a couple of reasons. First, this enemy development was not anticipated by the platoon commander's order and therefore is not covered by the plan. Second, it poses a significant threat to the safety of the platoon and the accomplishment of the platoon's mission. Therefore, we have to do something about it. Critical vulnerability, ours. Another way to look at this is in terms of critical vulnerability. In this case, not the enemy's vulnerability, but our own. In this situation, are we critically vulnerable? Definitely. There is the potential for real trouble here. Of the 2 enemy forces, the convoy or the patrol, which is more likely to threaten us critically? Clearly the patrol, for it is moving towards the platoon's flank or rear and is in a position to possibly destroy the platoon or cut it off from the route of escape. A new situation can make orders obsolete. The one thing the platoon commander's orders were explicit about is that we were not to open fire until the ambush had been sprung. But those instructions clearly were based on conditions and assumptions that no longer exist and are no longer appropriate given the developments in the situation. We shouldn't feel restrained by them. Instead, we have to use our best judgment to take whatever initiative will best support the platoon given the new situation. Popcorn to break.
What's the enemy up to? In any tactical situation, we should ask ourselves, what exactly is the enemy up to? We can't ignore the possibility that the enemy is aware of the platoon's presence, in which case the patrol is coming after us with a purpose. But even if they're not aware of our ambush and are merely a security patrol, things don't look good for the ambush. Thinking themselves safe in their own rear area, the patrol may very likely follow the animal trail that we crossed, and although we don't know exactly where the trail leads, it appears to lead into the rear of the platoon. Not good. If the patrol doesn't follow the trail but heads due west, it will likely strike the objective rallying point, ORP, which probably contains the platoon sergeant and at most one fire team for security. Also not good. If it's a security patrol protecting the enemy's rear area, it will likely check out the bridge on its route. It will likely check out the bridge on its route and will likely run directly into the flank of the ambush force on the way. Again, not good. In short, it seems extremely unlikely that the patrol will pass through the area without coming upon some part of our platoon. And even if the patrol does not discover our presence beforehand, it will be in a position to strike our platoon once the ambush is sprung, a vulnerable time. Complicating things is the approach of the convoy, which will likely, but not definitely, arrive before the enemy patrol does. A lot depends on the relative speeds of the convoy and the patrol. If we do nothing, the platoon will ambush the convoy as planned, thus giving itself away to the enemy patrol. Conversely, if we strike the patrol, we may give ourselves away to the convoy. The convoy is bigger than usual, 8 vehicles already with more coming into view. A lucrative target, certainly, but how much is too much for a platoon ambush to bite off? When planning an ambush, it's not a bad idea to have decided in advance how big a target is too big. If the target is bigger than you can handle, you let it go. Although the convoy is not a combat unit, it is led by a couple of machine gun vehicles and presumably includes other weapons and can definitely do some damage, especially in conjunction with an attack by the patrol from another direction. So what do we do? Having considered all this, what are our options? Option 1, ignore patrol, continue original mission. Doing nothing is always an option, right? In this case, definitely not. There is a definite problem here that needs to be dealt with. We cannot ignore the patrol. It clearly poses too great a threat to the platoon and the accomplishment of the mission. At the absolute minimum, we have to warn the platoon commander of the new development. Option 2. Report to platoon, ask for instructions. Assuming that we can't get the landline working, we can send a runner back to the platoon. He could probably beat the convoy to the ambush site. You might argue that the decision of what to do in this case is not the squad leader's to make. Instead, you might argue we should inform the platoon commander of the unforeseen situation, but leave it up to him what to do. There's a quote. In making his tactical decisions, the commander at any level asks himself, what can I do at my level to help the higher situation or further the accomplishment of the higher mission? Unfortunately, there isn't time for that. By the time the platoon commander were to get the information by runner, make his decision, and send instructions back to our squad by runner, it will almost certainly be too late. Furthermore, I suggest that the platoon commander isn't even the best person to make the decision. His entire knowledge of the situation is based on the sketchy and hurried information he will have gotten from the messenger. He understands none of the subtleties of the situation, such as the relative positions of the two enemy forces, their relative speeds, or the degree of threat each actually poses. We can't possibly communicate effectively to him all the intuitive factors that went into our estimate of the situation based on first-hand observation. The bottom line is that the squad leader, who, remember, is thinking like a platoon commander, understands the situation better than anyone else. Consequently, we reach the conclusion that we must deal with the enemy patrol. It poses too much of a threat to the platoon and the accomplishment of the mission. Popcorn Lambda, you want it?
Sure. Option 3, deploy against the patrol, but don't strike immediately. You might argue that another option is to be prepared to strike the patrol, but to wait as long as possible for initiating actions, so to give the platoon commander more time to decide what he wants to do. You might argue that by holding off on striking the enemy, we leave open to the platoon commander the choice of surprising the convoy or letting it pass through the killing zone. But that once our firefight begins in the woods, the convoy will be tipped off that something's up. You might also argue that by waiting, we give the platoon commander time to deploy against the patrol if he so chooses. However, in this situation, I think waiting is the mistake. The longer we wait, the closer we allow both enemy forces to converge on us, and more likely it becomes that we will have to deal with both at once. The worst possible scenario... Getting both at once is the worst possible scenario. And the longer we wait as the patrol moves west, the greater risk we run of the platoon being cut off from the ORP. Once the enemy patrol gains the nearby ridge, which runs southwest between our squad and the ORP, the platoon is in trouble. The patrol is just about to become a major threat to the platoon, and we can't afford to wait. We must deal with the situation at once. Option 4. Strike the patrol, let the platoon worry about the convoy. Our fourth option is let's strike the enemy patrol by attack or ambush, sending information to the effect to the platoon commander. We can leave it up to the platoon commander whether he thinks the platoon is able to fight both the patrol and the convoy at once, which the author thinks is too risky, or is at least highly risky. Of all the elements in the platoon, our squad is the one best disposed to deal with the patrol. In fact, it is the only element in position to deal with the patrol advantageously. The rest of the platoon, meanwhile, is already deployed to deal with the convoy. If we choose this option, we'll have to realize that by beginning an engagement with the patrol in the woods, we must sacrifice the element of surprise with regards to the convoy. And we are no longer in position to protect the ambush site against reinforcements by road from the direction of the depot. Option 5 is to strike the patrol, abort the ambush. We might reach this conclusion based on the knowledge of the situation that is too ambitious and risky for the platoon to try to spring the original ambush while also striking the patrol. So, we can send the messenger to the platoon commander with the recommendation of forgoing the convoy and going after the patrol instead. Thus, the patrol becomes the new target, beginning a platoon-level decision. This certainly would be a gutsy decision for a squad leader to make, but it's better than option 4. So option 4, again, was to strike it and let the platoon worry about the convoy. So the author thinks it's better than that because it leaves less to chance. So what do we do about the convoy approaching down the road? That's a close judgment call that depends on the time and distance factors. If the convoy is moving fast enough to get through the kill zone before we'll strike the patrol, but assuming our messenger will arrive in time to warn the platoon commander not to spring the ambush, we might let the convoy pass through. That way we have one less problem to worry about. The platoon can now blow the bridge to prevent the machine gun jeeps from coming back, but it's not that case. If it's not that case, if it appears the patrol will make contact first or the convoy and patrol will converge on the ambush site about at the same time, we might think about quickly dropping a few mortar rounds on the road in order to disrupt and delay the approaching convoy. We should have already laid the mortar on the road and should be able to fire immediately without the rest of the squad deploys against the patrol. A few explosions on the road distance away will not necessarily alert the patrol to the possibility of direct threat to it, we should probably plan to withdraw with a mortar at some point to take relative safety of the platoon. Withdraw to the relative safety of the platoon, popcorn, shush, because reading aloud is not my forte.
All good. Option 6. Ambush the convoy, fix the patrol. There's another way besides striking directly at the patrol to prevent it from threatening the platoon. That is, by, instead of our going after the patrol, getting the patrol to come to us. We can ambush the patrol ourselves, but it can converge with the patrol and become a real problem using primarily our mortars, AT-4s, and M203s. This is another gutsy call by the squad leader because it is in direct violation of the platoon commander's explicit instructions. An enemy security patrol would be compelled to turn north to investigate, but they would not know that we're already aware of their presence and are waiting for them. After ambushing the convoy, making sure that we get the machine gun jeeps, we quickly shift to face the patrol. Our object is not necessarily to destroy it, but rather to keep it fixed on us while the platoon, which the patrol presumably is not aware of, strikes it from the west. Another example of fix and flank. Like the others, this operation is not without risk. If we fail to smash the head of the convoy, we could be between a rock and a hard place. Observations. For such a simple problem, there are a lot of difficult factors for a hypothetical squad leader to consider. Unlike Ambush at Dusk, in which one general course of action presented itself, this problem has several drastically different solutions, any of which might work. You might argue that any commander would be hard-pressed in the time available to consciously consider all the factors we've discussed. And you'd be right. There simply isn't enough time to deliberate on all the various factors and considerations that weigh on the squad leader's decision. That's exactly the point of doing problems like this one. Through practice, we develop the ability to deal with such considerations instinctively and instantly, rather than through reasoned deliberation. We internalize the process so that it occurs automatically and smoothly without our even being aware of it taking place. So what's the bottom line of Platoon Ambush? That the squad leader must continuously think beyond his own level and be prepared to act on his own initiative in the best interest of the larger mission, even if it means making decisions usually reserved for the platoon commander. As long as you realized that you have to do something about the enemy patrol which threatens to hit our platoon in the flank, you're on the right track. Cool. So, what do we think about those answers? Any comments, thoughts, considerations?
At least I was on the right track.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to the rate at which the patrol and the convoy are approaching, which is a little less obvious from the written. Whether or not you do, well, a number of things, right? One being the ambush on the enemy patrol, or one being the convoy, or all of that. It really is a situation where they are right. I guess this is like a tendency of the Marines in general, right? Is to make bold action.
Yep.
And so I think that's really what this entire thing is about, is that there's a bunch of bold actions you can take, and you don't have enough information to decide which one's the best. So yeah, I don't.
Personally, one of the key takeaways as well is that you don't have to follow orders if the situation upends them. Like, just because you've been told not to fire doesn't mean that that carries over to all situations, because you see that threat approaching. And if you're thinking at that higher level of a bigger picture of the battle space, suddenly it makes sense to take a different action, which the platoon commander can't see.
Yeah. I think we all ignored the platoon commander.
Yeah, at least a little bit. Yeah, varying degrees of that. I definitely agree with the idea that it's all based upon the relative rates of approach from the enemy convoy and the enemy patrol. And I think one of the things that these answers have really solidified is that if you were there in person right now, right here, you'd be able to make that call because it wouldn't be vague to you. It would be less vague to you because you'd be able to see the speed of the convoy and then also understand maybe the speed at which the enemy patrol is going, because they're walking on foot through terrain, following a trail, etc., etc. And you'd be able to make maybe a more solidified decision. But at the end of the day, you have to make an assumption somewhere. And I think the fact that we all made an assumption that the convoy would pass by us and the enemy patrol would also pass by us, maybe at the same time or about the same time, is a solid one for sure.
I do think it is interesting, because it's something that's true when we play Iron Man, that a lot of the time we don't really have a lot of what's going on with the rest of the platoon. I don't think it's too common that we're too far apart, but it's just interesting to see another example of platoon doesn't actually know what's going on, or at least doesn't know well enough.
Yeah. I know, I don't want to turn this into an AR, but I know for sure that at least in Alpha's case last night, they definitely got caught out, and Platoon was not able to give them appropriate orders in that circumstance, it seemed like, which is unfortunate for them.
Yeah. I think going back to what you said before, you're right. It does highlight the whole disregarding, or I guess not you, Shesh, but Apo said earlier, disregarding orders and making the best orders with the big picture in mind.
Yeah. And especially in terms of defensive missions, which this sort of highlights, is that once you are in position, it is kind of your discretion for fallbacks and stuff like that. If you reasonably can ascertain that you are unable to hold or any variety of things, then you make the decision that is best for your team.
Chesh has something he likes to say of an NCO in motion outranks an officer at rest, and I think that's another great application to this, where you might not be that higher rank, but you have so much more information and can make a more effective decision.
I stole that shit from the army.
Oh yeah, I'm aware.
Yeah.
Although, to counterpoint, sorry, go ahead, Brick.
I was just gonna say, I think even in hindsight, I think a modified version of my plan would still work for the ambush.
Yeah, I all of our plans fell in the vein of being effective. Like, we didn't choose what the author identifies as the worst options for sure. Like, none of us ignored the patrol outright.
Yeah. Chesh, Apo, you're both running through these before we actually do them, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're gonna keep doing that, you should take screenshots of yours and then talk through your plans before you read the answers.
Oh, that's a great idea.
You know what? I will bring screenshots of our plans next session from our own like private running, because we're also using Whiteboard, and I think they store it for 90 days. So if I haven't deleted already, I'll screenshot.
I mean, yeah, you can also screenshot it, yes.
But absolutely, and I think if we do want to talk about it, my initial plan was actually just to retreat to the ORP, send a runner to platoon, and then conduct a fighting retreat back to the ORP.
Mine as well was basically let platoon initiate, and then we'd deal with the squad, which was, I think, pretty much what you two did as well.
Yeah.
I think that's one of those that he says isn't the best, though, because you can get pinched between, or you've now bitten off so much.
Yeah, really, both, I mean, all of us who said we should fight both really depends on like the actual ground facts of
I was
the
going to say,
situation.
yeah, it's so situational.
In the moment, you'll know.
Yeah,
You'll
that's the
know.
whole thing. If you're there, it's a lot easier to assess, in my opinion. I was gonna say something to counterbalance the whole. You have the ability to ignore orders. One of the things I think that these answers really strike hard at is that yes, you have the ability to do that, but it should always be used judiciously as much as possible. You should always be taking into account platoon's disposition. So like, even though like the later options say, initiate first, those answers are always taking into account where the platoon is, how the platoon's disposition is, made sure that you sent off a runner, and did everything in your power to make sure that you're following platoon's intent, essentially.
And they specifically say it's a gutsy move, too. Like, you are taking on more.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I wouldn't
all
expect a lot of love from your platoon captain.
Yeah, at least in the moment.
First
I think
lieutenant,
in one of
whatever it is.
the later scenarios, they're even like, yeah, if your commander's more timid, he's not going to like this.
that was a good situation, because I think when we ran it privately, yeah, it was good. But yeah, any final notes from anybody?
Good to go.
Should do more.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll be running this every other week, from what I understand. Hold on, let me close out of this activity to make sure.
It's
'cause I
every
can't
other
see
week.
Cool. So I'll give you the exact time. So it'll be September 5th at 6 o'clock.